I want to talk to you tonight about a man named Avshalom. He was an arrogant and vain man. He was the Ben David. He tried to usurp the kingship with a civil war against his father. He was David's third son. His mother was Maacah. She was the daughter of the king of Geshur. 2 Samuel 3:3, 1 Chronicles 3:2. So he was of royal descent on both sides. His mother had royal blood, so did his father. He was a potential heir to the throne. He was attractive, charming, popular, and he was his father's favorite. He had long hair, and it was beautiful long hair, and he was a very handsome man. And he was very proud of his appearance. 2 Samuel 14:25 and 26. And there was another son of David, Amnon. And this son did something terrible to Avshalom's half-sister. Well, actually, it was his sister. It was Amnon's half-sister, Avshalom's sister. 2 Samuel 13:1-22. It says, "Vengeance is mine, I shall repay, saith the Lord." But he said, "No, I'm going to take it upon myself to avenge my sister's dishonor. I'm going to take it on my own will to wreak vengeance." And after 2 years, he succeeded in having Amnon murdered by his servants. 2 Samuel 13:23-29. But then he fled, like most murderers do. Why did he flee? He feared his father's wrath. But I don't think he had much fear of the wrath of God, which most murderers don't. And he stayed in Geshur with his grandfather Talmai. And he was there for 3 years. 2 Samuel 13:37-38. But he wanted to come back. And he was one of David's favorite sons. So he longed to get back into that spotlight of favor. If the king himself sees you as his favor, that is a very cozy position you don't want to give up for long. You want to get back to it. So Joab, always a manipulator, one of David's advisors, Joab, urged, in spite of his crime, that Avshalom be allowed to return to Jerusalem. And of course, okay, put him on probation. He won't really come before you, David, but at least he'll be back in town. Well, that was a temporary expedient, because after he did return to Jerusalem, which was an ill-advised move on David's part, it wasn't long before he was secretly plotting more mischief, this time something more serious. Not just a murder, but a revolt against the throne, a civil war. So, taking advantage of his handsome good looks and his charm and his ability to sway people, especially his handsome appearance, he was able to arouse a certain amount of discontent. And he would hug people and say, you know, if only I was in charge, things wouldn't be like this. That somehow there would be more justice served if his father wasn't the king, but if he were. So everything waited until the plot was ready, and then he obtained permission to go to Hebron to worship. So he left Jerusalem, and meanwhile, he had sent spies throughout the tribes, inviting anyone favorable to him to come to Hebron. 2 Samuel 15:7, verse 7 to 11. Then he got his army together and he enlisted an advisor, an official disloyal to David, Ahithophel, as his aide and his advisor. And, you know, very often powerful adversaries will be raised up. And this Ahithophel, he believed that his popularity would bring success to Avshalom's revolt. And also, maybe there would be something in it for him. So he advised Avshalom to take David's harem, an act equivalent to claiming the throne, 2 Samuel 15:12, 16:21. And he advised Avshalom to pursue David, who, of course, had to leave Jerusalem in a hurry. But Hushai, who had been planted there and whom Avshalom listened to, advised him not to pursue his father. And when that happened, Ahithophel, sensing that the rebellion was doomed, did what Hitler did. He put his household in order and he committed suicide. And this is one of the cases of suicide in the Bible. So after all of this happened, the warriors assembling, the people who are in Avshalom's court coming to Hebron, Ahithophel, being a turncoat. Well, what happened was, of course, that David learned of these acts and he fled to Mahanaim beyond the Jordan River, 2 Samuel 17:24. And when Avshalom entered Jerusalem and took possession of the harem, well, this demonstrated that he would never be reconciled with his father. And so at that point, even more people rallied to his cause. So he called a council to determine what action to take. And present at this meeting was Husai. And I just said that he advised, take it easy, do some spying, but don't pursue him because of his powerful reputation as a warrior, which should make anyone fear. And he advised Avshalom, as I said, to gather his forces for a full-scale attack, but don't do anything yet. And when Avshalom heeded his counsel, this gave time for David to assemble an army. At the most vulnerable time when he might have been killed, the Lord intervened for David, and the counsel of Ahithophel came to nothing. So in 2 Samuel 19:10 tells us that Avshalom was formally anointed king after taking Jerusalem. He appointed Amasa as captain of his army. He crossed the Jordan. He was going to meet his father's forces in battle, which took place in the woods of Ephraim, where, of course, his recruits were no match for David's veterans. And his army was defeated. 20,000 of his men were killed. 2 Samuel 18:6-7. He tried to flee from the forest on a mule, but that vanity caught up with him. That long, beautiful hair got caught in the thick boughs of a terebinth tree. So here he is hanging between heaven and earth on the tree. Then Joab, the captain of David's army, the one who had been his advocate before, I'm talking about Avshalom, then becomes his executioner. And in spite of David's request that he not be harmed, Avshalom is pierced. And here you have the Ben David pierced and hanging on the tree. Anyone who's hanging on a tree is accursed of God. Deuteronomy says that. And cursed is everyone who does not uphold all the words of this Torah to do it. So the curse that's on me and on you, because all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, that curse was put on Ben David as a type, so that the antitype will be Moshiach ben David hanging on the tree. You say, well, we don't believe that because we don't believe in human sacrifice. Well, Jonah said, pick me up and throw me in. And once I'm out of the way, God's wrath will be propitiated against you. And so I will be your sacrifice. And Mashiach is led as a lamb to the slaughter. He was wounded for our transgressions. So we see here very clearly the Ben David pierced and hanging on the tree. They will look upon me whom they have pierced.
Amen.
And mourn for him as one mourns for an only son. They will look upon me whom they have pierced. Upon hearing the news, David moaned, Avshalom, my son, Avshalom. If only I had died in your place. Well, that's exactly what the Ben David is going to do. He's going to die in our place. Wounded for our transgressions. Kinigzar me'eretz hayim mipeshai mi. He was cut off out of the land of the living for the transgression of my people. So there you have it, 2 Samuel 18:33, Isaiah 53, verse 8. So Avshalom, with all of his talents and abilities, was sinful, rebellious, spoiled, impatient, overly ambitious, vain, proud. And here we see all of these sins lead him to his tragic death. His body was cast into a pit. Great heap of stones was piled as a sign of contempt. There's a large mausoleum called Avshalom's Monument, located in the Kidron Valley, east of Jerusalem, but it was built centuries afterwards. So it does not actually mark the site of his burial place. But it's a pillar, and Absalom does say he set up for himself in the King's Valley, 2 Samuel 18:18, a pillar. He died without children. And his grave that we see described is dishonored, 2 Samuel 18:17. Now, when you get to 2 Samuel, Shmuel base, chapter 18, verse 14, you're seeing a picture of the Redeemer who is poured out, who bears your sins, who takes your curse. Ben David. There's no question that our Melech HaMoshiach is Ben David, an antitype of the type that you have here in Avshalom. Lord, I want to pray that we will fear God, that we will understand that we're living under a curse. Nothing is going the way it really should go for us. We are living in a doomed condition. The wages of sin, a cursed life ending in death, without hope, without God in the world. No matter how many mitzvahs we do, it doesn't matter, because cursed is everyone who does not uphold all the words of this Torah. Who can say they've done that? But cursed is everyone who's hanged on a tree. Moshiach took our curse, the just for the unjust, so that we could live a life of blessing. And we are not cursed. Yes, there are generational sins, but if anyone is in Moshiach, he's a new creature. Old things have passed away. And if we are blessing the Jewish people, it says, I will bless those. It doesn't say I will curse those. I will bless those who bless my people. This work that we are doing in this Bible Society and in this congregation is a great blessing. We're going to have a diglot and a triglot of the Yiddish and the OJB and a Latinized Yiddish version. And it's going to be a great blessing to many people. It's going to open the Yiddish language in a way that is absolutely incredible. You will be able to read and understand Yiddish without any trouble at all. You will be able to add another language to your array of languages you may already know. Some of you already know Russian, you already know English, you already know Hebrew, but you don't know Yiddish. Well, you will. And this is going to go to yiddishbible.net, and it's going to go all over the world. And that is a great blessing to God's people. And amen. We know that Genesis 12:3 says that we are blessed. So, Lord, I want to ask you to open the eyes of the blind. Show someone today that they need to open a Bible and look at 2 Samuel 18:14 and see what I'm talking about. How could it be clearer? Ben David pierced and hanging on a tree, and they will look upon him. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10. And mourn for him as one mourns for an only son. Lord, I want to pray. HaMoshiach ben David, come into my heart, forgive my sins, take control of my life, and I will serve you and follow you all the days of my life. And everybody said, Amen. Amen.